Welcome, everyone. We'll start the webinar in about a minute. Can we just confirm in the chat that you can hear me and see the slide, the opening slide today? Thank you, Jeff. Great. Yay. Thanks, Tara. Thanks, Peter. Just going to wait another minute and then we will start. Okay. All right. So thank you everyone for attending today's webinar with Canon Quality Group and Qualio. As many of you are aware, the use of electronic quality management systems, or eQMS for short, are becoming pretty much standard in the MedTech startup world. They're offering promise of automation, improving compliance, reducing costs, increasing productivity, and just the world of paper versus electronic. So again, thank you very much for joining us today. At the bottom of, or before we get started, please make sure that your audio is on mute. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. We will have a Q&A portion at the end of this presentation with our presenters today. So for today's agenda, we are going to go over who is Canon Quality Group, who is Qualio, what and why should we have an eQMS versus paper. We'll do a 15 to 20 minute demonstration of the Qualio eQMS platform, and then we'll go into the question and answer. So for our presenters today, it's going to be Josh Tucker, who is the Regional Director of Quality at Canon Quality Group. Tamara Burch-Williams, who's our Senior Solutions Consultant at Qualio, and she'll be doing the demo today. And myself, my name is Ashley Sherrick. I'm a Senior Growth Marketing Manager here at Qualio. So I will pass it over to Josh to start to talk about who and what Canon Quality Group does and is.
Hello, everyone. Canon Quality Group is a service firm. We've been in the business since 2010, supporting over 200 companies, providing pretty much an external QARA team for MedTech startups and other businesses. We're founded by our CEO, Nicole Cannon, and the whole philosophy around our team is about helping right-size quality for those businesses that are looking to get into a regulated industry and need support in understanding the requirements and implementing it in a way such that they can not only comply with the regulations and or standards, but run their business in a profitable way. So.
Great. So now a little bit about who Qualio is. So Qualio, we are a cloud-based quality management software system, and we are specifically designed for life sciences companies. We empower med device, pharmaceuticals, biotechs, and contract organizations to get to market faster, boost your revenue, and cut risk. So you can use Qualio to embed and automate GXP, FDA, ISO compliance, and much more, which we'll go into the demo later. And our global team is located around the world, including the United States, Europe, and all the way in Australia. So Qualio does unite your teams, your process, and data as a single source of truth that supports a quality of culture and just makes your business stronger, more fit, and more competitive in today's ever-changing marketplace. We're easy to use, we're scalable, and we're fast to set up and always continue to grow. So on the next slide, we can kind of go over what Qualio's journey was and still is. So we were founded in 2012 with a simple yet very important mission. We wanted to help life science organizations bring vital products to market faster and stronger and have a more quality-centric approach versus kind of the old school way of how this has always been done. And as I mentioned before, we're scalable and we're flexible for a cloud system which pretty much means that we can grow with a customer's business and organization. So we grow with you. So That's a fantastic part about our software. So today, so when it was founded in 2012 to today in 2023, we are one of the leading eQMS life science ecosystems. And we have over 500 life science and healthcare businesses from across the globe that use us to centralize and optimize their QMS systems. And from there, we're going to jump right into, the world of MedTech and eQMS. So we're going to start with the first poll. So please, Jason, if you could add, or actually, I think I might be able to do that. Here we go. So I'm going to share this poll just to see who is here today. So what is your priority with an eQMS solution? Is it collaboration? Is it regulatory submission? Is it specifically one system for a single source of truth? Or is it something else? If it is something else, please let us know in the chat, just so we can understand. We'll wait another 30 seconds or so, maybe 15 seconds. 30 is a little bit too much. Oh, well, this is great. Okay, so it looks like one system for a single source of truth. That is what we are looking at today, which is fantastic. That is what Qualio, and if it's not Qualio, just an eQMS system in general is really important for. So that's perfect. So we will actually dive right in. I'll pass it over to Josh, and he will actually go over kind of the options for managing quality and what an eQMS system is. So we can go to that next slide, and I'll hand it over to Josh.
Sure, thanks. So as far as what an eQMS system is, we're all familiar with what we consider the old school way of doing things, right? If you have a hybrid or a paper-based system, you have your procedures, your documents in paper, you're tracking things from projects to reports, maybe even your training in a spreadsheet. And then you have other tools in which you're sharing electronically with SharePoint and email. Well, the good thing about the eQMS is you can put all those solutions into the eQMS, right? So you reduces the tools you need to communicate with teams, share information to one platform. And that's the great thing about the eQMS system, is having that one single source of truth, if you will, as we see from the audience's participation in the poll. Next. So what is an eQMS, right? So as was stated before, the E stands for electronic and the QMS is quality management system. So we're all in the MedTech space here, or most of us, MedTech life sciences. So being in that space, it's a regulated industry, and we are required to have procedures, documents, things of that nature. And what the eQMS does, it helps you put all that into a usable tool to where you have your documents, design controls, trainings, and other requirements that are required by either ISO 1345 or 21 CFR 820. Next. As far as the modern eQMS functionality here, you can see, as stated on the slide, what an eQMS also helps you with is automation, right? So in a hybrid system or previous, there's a number of processes that you have to share information, where you have a document control. Let's just take the flow of a document per se. You have a review and an approval process to where you could end up drafting a document, emailing it to someone to get them to add red lines or things of that nature. The great thing about the functionality with the eQMS, you can work within your eQMS system. It reduces time in which you can get these things done, and it provides the audit trails that are always needed when having to when you get audited and things of that nature. Not to mention just the interactive dashboards that are included that also helps with reporting.
So great. Thank you, Josh. So we're going to hop into poll number 2. Where are you in the product life cycle? Are you in the concept? Are you in the feasibility stage, verification and validation, or are you submitted and waiting? So if you could please answer that would be fantastic, because then we can make the demo, customize the demo a little bit more based on what we're looking for. Okay, we'll wait another 10 seconds or so. So it looks like verification and validation is the top choice in the product lifestyle. Then we have concept as the number 2. And then feasibility and submitted and waiting is just 1 each. So that is some interesting details. So verification and validation, we can try and focus on that, which is lovely. So we will head to the next slide from that poll. So it's a life science, it's a changing life science world, and I'm sure Tamara and Josh can attest to this, which I'll ask for their opinion in a minute. But the traditional value chain has completely been disrupted. From 2020 COVID days to 2023, the world of paper to eQMS has completely changed, and just really the market forces have led to new companies joining the ecosystem versus your big companies like your Pfizer, your Merck, your Boston Scientific, to now these smaller companies that are making a big difference in the world of life science. And there's always challenges, and there has been plenty of challenges even before the paperless kind of transition happened. But I think the biggest challenges that we've been facing in the life science world and eQMS is these 3 things on the left-hand side. It's your time to market, it's your usability, and it's the integration. So if we're focusing on time to market, the biggest issue or challenge is that people don't want to waste time implementing this quote unquote very difficult technology, when in reality it is quite easy, or not quite easy, but it's easier than one would expect to transition from paper to a digital. Many companies don't want to spend too much time implementing this technology, and they want to focus on getting their products to market. That leads into the ease of use. So many current eQMS tools are not as intuitive, or they're harder to use than a kind of buildable product like Qualio has. And companies don't want to take months to learn this new system. So you have to take the hurdle away of getting the product to digital, and then just learning how to use the product. So we've heard that people want tools that are intuitive and easier to understand. Josh, I think Josh, you might have a good answer on this one, but I'm sure with your customers and clients in the past, like, what have they been saying about, ease of use and what their key things are to get a product to a digital platform?
Yeah, so a lot of people that are either in verification or starting out is looking for an easy to use tool. And a lot has to deal with data migration, right? If we already have a QMS that we started on paper, how easy is it to actually get in and learn a new system? That's one of the questions or concerns that is always brought up to us when when we start broaching the topic of switching from a paper-based or hybrid to an eQMS system.
Mm-hmm. And what about, do you have some of the key highlights of how it gets migrated, or what you've experienced in the past? Or Tamara, if you want to also add any insight.
Sure. So normally it gets migrated by a bundle, or you can take it in where you don't have to necessarily do procedure by procedure or record by record. Most times we've found that there is a batch type system in which documents can be loaded that help eases the migration process and then there's a verification after that to ensure the documents that were migrated over are accurate and legible.
Yeah, I would definitely, hopefully you can hear me. I was going to say, I would agree with that as well. That comes up a lot of times with many organizations that I speak with on a daily basis, where they're just really looking for a simplistic way to move their information in that they've already done, really limiting the rework and a smooth and fast way that they can get everything aligned and then get that same information in, as Josh mentioned, verified as well. So big things that come up in a lot of discussions. So this is definitely common across the board.
Fantastic. Thanks for your insight. And that kind of leads right into that integration portion where, you know, the incumbents that have been out there on the market for a very long time, like they're very used to just one system. They've kind of created something in-house and they don't feel the need to change. And if they even wanted to change, it's a much bigger challenge because they're just used to what they have. Versus now this ecosystem that's been coming into the market, we can really collaborate seamlessly with numerous integrations, API integrations or third parties across like the entire product development life cycle platform. So it's not just this one technology, it's multiple systems, it's new technology, and it's really staying up with the times. I think overall, like the biggest barriers of entry for most of the start of new companies has been significantly reduced. Like overall, like new companies have built in new needs, but the speed and agility is a game changer when it comes to the eQMS platform. So going on to the next slide, and this we will give you as a handout through Qualio. It's called the 12 questions to ask before buying an eQMS. And this is a really fantastic resource, completely free for you all, that we have just added in the handouts section onto the platform. But if you are in the middle of searching for a vendor, or if you're trying to switch from one vendor to another, these are really great. This is a really great resource to show you what the requirements are, the questions you should be asking. For example, what are my requirements? What do you actually want to achieve? And does it actually make sense based on my industry, the growth, and like the scaling model of what the company is? So this is a fantastic resource to help you have a clear idea of what your business needs are in the organization today and future down the line. So what is an eQMS, or why is Qualio a great eQMS built for medical teams? This next slide will kind of explain visually that Qualio, like stated before, we unite your data, your people, your process in a single source of truth, which that goes back to our first poll question. It's a very easy to use eQMS. So you have documents, you have training, you have your quality events, your suppliers, and your design controls. And this again is completely customizable based on where you are in your business at this time. So going forward on the next slide, software and support for MedTech companies. The MedTech eQMS, as we've been saying, has completely exploded in the last couple of years. And Josh and Tamara, I would love to get some insight here why it's so important to empower MedTech teams to get to market. You know, preparation, information, and participation is key, but could you guys provide any examples of some empowering moments that you've had, or some really great experience with customers where they were kind of thrilled with an eQMS platform of like getting that up and running?
Sure. So as everybody knows, a number of the clients or customers here on the phone are in submitting and waiting, right? So whether you use the eQMS or a paper system, what the eQMS does is help you be more efficient when you're coming up with all the objective evidence, and going through your design controls process and building that 510K if you're going that route, or if you're going another route, all the necessary documentation that you need when submitting evidence to the FDA or whatever notified body you are to get that clearance. So we found that in working with the eQMS, it just helps the management of all that documentation and data to help you be prepared to submit faster.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I can say that from just conversations that I've had, the last couple of weeks, It's really nice to see some organizations that start off with just kind of getting their documentation up and running for maybe one sole product or project that they're running. And then just to hear later, you know, they're already able to scale, you know, to a point where they can start moving forward with not only their submissions, but potentially shifting gears to other potential products that they want to expand into other global markets. So I just think the not only the speed, but also getting them, you know, participating as a team together has really been, you know, leaps and bounds for a lot of the customers that I've spoken to over the past couple months and even years. So that's been exciting to see them grow.
Thank you. Yeah, that's fantastic. And Josh, how does Canon come in working with Canon for the business? I know Qualio is obviously flexible and ease of use, but how does working with Canon and Qualio help for MedTech companies?
Sure. So where we come in is we help help organizations not only implement the tool, but implement the processes or the SOPs, the processes in which you work with inside of Qualio. So, you know, you get sometimes it can be intimidating in reading either 21 CFR or 1345. And it's one thing to know what the requirements say, it's another thing to implement them. So where we come in is where we work with a variety of clients where we do this on a regular basis. So what we always like to say is we like to help clients right size the quality system and actually implement it in a way in which you can use it effectively and efficiently.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. Now we are going to head into the third poll on the next screen. So this poll is, where do you place yourself on the digital maturity scale? Are you manual? Are you digital? Are you connected? Or are you some kind of in between, like on an intelligence scale? Manual? Okay. Connected. I'll wait a few more seconds. Okay, so mostly manual. All right. And a little bit connected. Okay, so that's 50-50. That's fantastic. Thank you for being active in these polls. It really does help us a lot to for our next part, where I'm going to actually pass it over for the Qualio demo with Tamara. So the goal here is to do about a 10-minute demo, 10 to 12-minute demo, all about Qualio. Please feel free to ask any questions. Tara, I see your answer, your question here, but please feel free to ask additional questions while we're doing this demo. And then after this demo, we will go into the Q&A portion. So I will pass this over and we will go from there.
Perfect. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. As Ashley mentioned, we're going to go right into our demonstration, but to just set the stage for, you know, some of the key points that we're going to talk through, much of what you've already heard in our conversation earlier with Ashley and Josh. We've learned a lot over the years with Qualio that experts in the industry really feel like they may be operating in things like silos. We've also heard that sometimes quality can feel a little bit like an afterthought. And I think the other biggest part is that sometimes quality, there could be a little bit of a misconception that it might hinder some of the velocity of an organization. So today we want to kind of just shift that approach and walk you through some of the key areas where we really support our customers with winning. And specifically there, we're going to focus on some of those key areas that Ashley highlighted earlier, where a lot of customers choose to really win with us, and perhaps maybe even the reason that you all are maybe exploring a QMS today is because we really do take a simplistic approach. So maybe different from some other more complex, eQMSs, is we really try to make things simple so that everyone across the business, no matter where you sit, it really feels easy, it's familiar, because we do want your teams to be able to participate in these quality activities. You can also see throughout the demonstration today that I'll be showing really how we can support you guys efficiently scaling. That's across quality processes, and a lot of your content to be able to track that information, and ultimately so that you're staying informed. And the last piece I took some notes in the background. I did see with one of the polls that you guys are looking for kind of that single source of truth. So ultimately, how do we show you today with Qualio that you can have a trusted solution? That way the teams are remaining prepared, across the board, whether it be from a compliance standpoint to perform submissions or just to simply even pass audits. So as I mentioned, as actually mentioned earlier, my name is Tamara Burch-Williams. I have been partnering with life science organizations to really drive real value through quality. And so today I'm going to be leading the demonstration to really show why customers choose Qualio with a focus to having a tool that's simple, it's scalable, and it's going to be trusted. We're going to walk through 3 key areas today in our demonstration, which will take you through our platform. So we're going to start with documents management, and we'll talk about training. We'll also talk about another area of our tool, really around the product development functions for design control. So these 3 here are really what we're finding our emerging companies are really drawn to: documents and training and design controls. And this last piece here is really for those organizations or individuals on the call today who might be thinking a little bit beyond just emerging and getting established to what does the future hold? How do we expand? How do we grow? And we support that with solutions like our suppliers and analytics. So these solutions we're going to introduce to you all in the Qualio platform, and just demonstrate how emerging and scaling businesses in the MedTech space have been successful with Qualio and how they're actually achieving their business goals today. So as we transition into the Qualio platform, you guys will notice this is actually the first place you come in when you enter the Qualio platform. So this is a personal dashboard to me. So all of you on the webinar today, I want you to kind of envision your day-to-day coming in for the first time and seeing everything that's important to you. This is what we call our personal dashboard. So this is a great way to just target information very specifically to what you need day to day, whether that's reviewing documentation, whether it's approving documentation, or maybe it's just simply training. Many of you today may also be influencers of content, right? As you're building out submissions, maybe technical documentation, anything that's governing your processes for any regulations you adhere to, you can also easily create content here. So we really want to make this experience very seamless and very simplistic. So everything here is at your fingertips. In addition to that, we typically hear that, some tools or maybe more manual processes don't really give you a heads up or notifications to what's coming down the pike. We do support that right from this dashboard as well. So it's really nice to know from the start exactly not only what you need to do, but what may be coming down the road. So you can see things like your periodic review, especially if you have documentation maybe on a regular basis that needs to be reviewed quite often. So as we kind of transition from maybe that personal space, the reality is many of you on today's webinar, you probably come from all different walks of life, across the business. And we want to be able to speak to you all today. So with that, we also support our workspace. So this is really nice because many people are just, their job daily is really to understand what's the status of a project, maybe around a product that we're looking to bring to market, and how does that documentation look and how is it progressing after we've created it, and maybe now we're just simply waiting for signatures. This workspace is really going to be your point of information. So here you can see all of that information, the statuses, and more importantly, as you maybe look across the business and all the documents that are out there, maybe pertaining to a submission that you guys are working on, it's nice to be able to just quickly filter, see the information that may be there specifically based on draft, maybe some signatures that you're waiting on, and even for looking at past information. So I think the reality is many of you know already there are going to be life cycle stages when it comes to your documentation and control. So even if something's archived, this is a really great place for you to see what's been retired, or essentially, just looking at documents that might be coming up for review. So as we transition now from maybe that super user, that person who is influencing content daily, maybe you're a subject matter expert or someone who's working in the product development wheelhouse, this is really the place for you. We can take a look as well at our documents library. And the reason we call it that is because we want to keep that simple as well. Most people today identify library as, a place that you can get information that is accessible to you. So you can check out something that's available. In that same manner, we keep that thought pattern where you can see all the information across the business that should be accessible to individuals. But more importantly, it's only showing you what's current, what's been approved and effective. So this is really the status of your finalized document control, not only for your internal team, but more importantly for maybe any external businesses you might be working with that you need to provide information to, but potentially also an auditor. So that's all going to be here for you. Just like with Google, many people are familiar with using that search bar. We have a quick search where you can type in keywords to really just get very specific on what you need to see. And even more importantly, we do support tags as well. We know traditionally over time, many people will tell us they're saving a lot of their documentation maybe in physical manila folders or drawers. Others have told us that, they're using more of SharePoint and they're actually building folders and someone's hired really to support the pathways of where you can find that documentation. So we take a little bit of a different approach and we try to once again make it very, very easy and simple. We use tags. This makes it simple for that user to come in. That member of the engineering team can quickly come in and find information, as an example, for maybe a specific product that they're working on. And then from there, they might say, from this product, from this project rather, I really want to focus on a specific component of the product. So you can easily get to the documentation, open that up within Qualio, and everything that you're going to see here today is actually electronic. So nothing that you need to download, maybe, bring outside of the system itself. We also don't have more of a kind of like a physical check-in, check-out process. Everything in Qualio within the application can be done electronically and viewed electronically in the application as well. So here I can begin my reading process very smoothly. I can quickly see, status, things that are important, like who signed off on this document, what are the timestamps, but also, maybe this is a really long document, right? When we get into technical documentation, we know sometimes there can be a number of pages that really just accrue over time. So having a really nice table of contents that's interactive, which many of our engineers that we worked with, from a product development standpoint, tell us they're familiar with things like wikis. It's nice to just drop down to that specific area of your business that you want to see and target that information. So as you can see here, not only is the authoring experience very similar to maybe what you'll see in Word or Google Docs, but we also can have things like tables, charts, images, and more importantly, if you need to get to any reference documentation or links that maybe are external to the business, you can do so with these really nice blue links here to quickly get to that current effective version of this associated document that's referenced as well. So we've got that documentation here, and I know many of you may be thinking, that's great that the document is also here for us electronically, but there's going to be a time where we do need to provide this information to maybe suppliers or vendors that we work with, or maybe to our auditors or notified bodies. You can easily export this information that's there for you, or if you guys are ever, supplying this just outside of your business, that export functionality is there for you very easily. Now, over time, many of you might also say that we just really want to understand how this documentation has grown. How has it progressed over time? I know in my past, a lot of tools, there was a separate area to find maybe legacy versions. In the past, with Qualio, we have that information right at your fingertips. You can see all of that version history here. So it's going to be locked down specific to this unique identifier. We happen to be looking at a design and development document here, but many of you might have SOPs. It could be policies, work instructions, or it could just purely be any technical documentation here. All of that's going to be visible for you to see over time what those versions are, and knowing that that control's there for you to see the comparison across time. If you ever need to create new drafts, you can simply do that right from the tool itself. And then Qualio, of course, has that guardrail in terms of control to make sure whoever is making that new draft, that you're only working on one unique version and there's not multiple versions out there at one time. So we've briefly just walked through just the user experience, right? How easy it is to see your personal dashboard. We transition from seeing things that are specific to you as a user into the workspace, right? Where we're traditionally finding people who work with documents on a regular basis. They're writing them, they're editing them, or maybe they're just simply reviewing and approving and signing off. But in addition to that, you can easily search for documentation that, knowing that it's approved, it's effective, reading that documentation like we're seeing here now, and then leveraging that interactive table of contents to kind of work your way through what's important to you at that point in time. Now, Although we're looking at this final documentation here, many of you may be thinking, how did we get here, right? What was the process of completing this? And really, Qualio supports you with what we call our document templates. We are actually founded on a really nice, easy template structure, which allows a little bit of flexibility. We typically hear some systems will say this is exactly how you need to maybe create a document, which doesn't leaves very little room for maybe if there's a regulation change in the future. I know earlier we talked about some standards or regulations like ISO 13485, or if you guys are looking for certification with ISO 9001, things of that nature. You really want to be able to pivot just as much as the industry does. So we support that with our templates. These are just some examples that we have in our demo environment today, but ultimately, I want you all to kind of envision what content are we managing today, or would we be looking to incorporate as a part of our certification? This is exactly what would live here. So we've got some examples of course, standard QMS documentation, but we also support very much so documentation that you would see in the product development lifecycle. So there could be things like a DMR, there could be things like a DHF, or maybe you guys are really just targeting things that are, simply like a quality manual or even your procedures within the system. So if we take a look at a procedure here, you can see we've got that basic structure of what a procedure should look like. And this is just giving you a basic outline, right, of what the minimal viable information should be included every time. And then, of course, we can have our properties, which are really seen as kind of the rules of engagement. Every time the style of document maybe is reviewed, should that take place every 2 years? Should it take place every 1 year? We can make sure that that is specific and automated in your tool. Or another layer is this document type. Does it pertain to training? So how do we automate the training for you guys? So that's going to be there for you. So all of those pieces are there from a document to, a template standpoint. And as we move back to the dashboard, we talked about the creation of a document before. Documents can easily be created. You're going to leverage those templates that already exist in the system. So in this case, I could say I want to create a procedure, fill out basic information that's there in a simplistic form for all of your users. And instead of really doing heavy, complex code, we make it very easy for you to bring in those individual users who need to be either reviewers or approvers, or individuals across the business that may also need to incorporate training. So that training can be done upfront so that you guys aren't doing rework and that workflow is nice and smooth from the start. After I've gotten my document created, you'll notice that just from my dashboard, like we talked about earlier, because the reality is many times people need to create a document, just have a log there that it's been controlled and it has a unique identifier, and they may need to walk away from their desk. Upon returning, you should be able to access that document you've created and see the information right in front of you, right from your dashboard. So we know that within Qualio, we have a really nice seamless workflow where we not only include those people within the properties, but a measure of change control is automated specific to this document. You can incorporate that training assessment, which maybe is a basic read and understood, or more of a quiz, right? Or quiz or an exam for proof of concept. Or you can go simply into authoring your document. Here, we've made this very interactive where you can write that document, bring in individuals collaboratively to review that document with you, and then see that information in real time. The goal is that once you guys send this for approval, you're handling all of your signatures electronically now in Qualio. So Qualio is going to require that unique information so that that can be signed off right in the system. Now, after we've gotten through that process, of course, of creation, approval of your document, we talked about that training being included. And the goal is that the trainees would receive this in parallel once this document has formally been approved and or made effective, depending on your internal processes. And we want to give you back visibility to that. So we've got dashboards already in the tool itself that are going to provide you with that data up front. And there you can see all of that information very clearly. This is all to ultimately provide you back with that one trusted system that's going to keep you compliant along the way. Now, we talked through documents. We've talked through the training a little bit as well. I want to transition into the design controls area because this is really a core piece of product development. Within Qualio, you can easily create new products, and those products can be set up to incorporate things like your requirements, how you're going to manage your tests, things like verification and validation, even down to the risk. And once that's set up, essentially the configuration for how your product should be set up, we give you back a live standard status of what your requirements are going to look like over time. So from that top level requirement all the way down, you have clear visibility to what that top level user need might be, anything like your inputs, your outputs, and potentially if you're performing those tests, right, what the verification and validation looks like, as well as the results. So this is all going to be here for you in the tool. You can easily create new requirements right from Qualio, whether they are requirements or test cases. But the great thing that we talked about earlier in our session as well is we recognize there's a measure of integration that a lot of companies need as well. So in addition to using the tool, we have made it very seamless for quality teams and engineers both to work together, especially if you're using third-party software like a Jira to manage your projects, or maybe an Azure DevOps. We can integrate and synchronize that information for you. Once you've got your requirements, you can of course keep a log of your risks. Those risks can easily be created according to 14971 standards, or if you guys are using FMEA, that'll be here for you as well. The goal is to provide you back with clear visibility, tracking the status, and understanding where you stand as these reports are created over time. And as this goes along, there's probably going to be a measure of design review. There could be stage gates. If some of you are working with SDLC or design and development processes, we want to give you back that visibility for your reviews. So here's that in progress. Here's what's approved. And ultimately, all the work you've performed, we're going to give you back at the point of that signature, right, where you're signing off on those reviews, a snapshot in time that gives you bulk information of all of those documents generated. So instead of maybe in the past, we typically hear people are heavily using Excel sheets, they're compiling this information. We're going to give all that work back to you and compile that for you and give it to you timestamp so you have visibility of how your requirements may have changed over time, how your test cases may have changed, and the people who were involved. So ultimately, this is providing you once again with that trusted source as well as a compliant list of evidence to support for any audits that you might have in the future. Now, as we look to close out today's demonstration, we've looked at our documents and training, our design controls. The last piece we want to cover today, of course, is the suppliers element as well as analytics. So if we start with suppliers, there's probably a measure of in the future, suppliers you might be looking to qualify. Qualio really leverages what we call a policy. This policy is going to drive all of the specific information around exactly who you're working with and the risk to the business, based on that specific supplier or vendor that you're working with. Maybe you also want to track things like the audits, how often that you would expect to actually review the information. And this is all to give you back a successful way to maintain your compliance, but of course have that visibility to who you're partnering with and if the partnership is still faring well for the future. Ultimately, your supplier list is going to give you updates on the status of those suppliers, whether they're approved, whether they're in draft or in work, and then a quick way for you guys to export your ASL. We hear a lot of times procurement teams love this because they can quickly see who you're working with. And as we transition into kind of that last piece, we understand visualization of data is extremely important. So within Qualio, we really work to develop a way to not only give you guys a place to put your information in, but how do we give you that information back? And here's a really nice way for you to always have full traceability across your business to your documents, your training, and if events ever comes into play with things like CAPAs and complaints, that'll be there for you in the future where you can quickly drill down, see times across, specific information across your processes, and ultimately maybe even contribute to management reviews for you all in the future as you look to have that traceability and clear information on how you're working with your processes across your product development. So we've talked a lot today about a lot of things. So we've talked about documents and training. We've talked about specifically our design controls, and now we're closing here on suppliers and analytics. And this is all to provide you guys with a measure of that information to making sure that you do have, all of the information at your fingertips. So these are just some of the benefits that you've probably seen today within Qualio. But all in all, to close out, we want to make sure that all of the partners that work with us have a simple system that's easy for everyone across the business. It's going to essentially provide you guys with a scalable platform, right? So that way you can have efficient processes and operations over time. And that final piece, of course, is ensuring that you have a system that's trusted. And what we really mean when we say that is you're remaining compliant and you have that one single source of truth that's really going to support you as you work towards regulatory submissions. So I want to thank everyone, of course, for their time and engagement. And I'm going to pass it back over to Ashley for a little bit of Q&A for the team.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tamara. That was very detailed, and I think everyone enjoyed that. So Tara, first off, that was a great question about Qualio versus enzyme. So thank you, Josh, for answering that. I will send out a whole competitor page after this call, so you can kind of compare our top vendors as well. But for the Q&A portion, if you have any questions, please feel free to add them. We do have a few to start with, and we only have about 5 more minutes anyways. But if we can't get to the questions, we'll of course follow up, or we'll have Josh, myself, or Tamara answer these questions going forward. So the first question for you two is, can an eQMS speed up compliance prep for 21 CFR 820 or ISO 13485?
It can speed up compliance prep in that you have a single source, you have the visibility, as Tamara was talking to the design controls, and I kind of mentioned in the chat, it gives you better line of sight to your user requirements, your inputs, your outputs, and then your verification and validation evidence, right? If you can see all that in the table or have it all linked, it allows for easier project management, and then allows you to put all your objective evidence together and make sure you don't leave anything out prior to submitting to the FDA.
Perfect. Now, we have another question. I think this is, Tara, you can double check if this is specific for Qualio or not, but I'm going to assume it's for Qualio. Are there user restrictions that can be applied to different team members and partners? Yes, for Qualio, specific. Thank you.
Yeah, Ashley, can I jump in there a little bit?
Absolutely. Yes, please.
Is that okay? Okay, perfect. Yeah, just to expand on that, most certainly. We have a lot of customers, especially I think I talked about suppliers a little bit. There could be times where you need to bring in an external party. And we really keep it simplistic with our roles. But in addition, we make sure that you guys have permission-based, that you can kind of have a little bit of flexibility to make sure you have individuals who see exactly what they need to do. So we certainly can do that. There are role permissions based. And then you can even increase some of that visibility even across your internal teams as well.
Awesome. Thank you. So the next question, how can I get internal traction for an eQMS project? Quality doesn't seem to be the same financial support as sales and marketing.
So you're going to want to leverage bringing in other pieces of the business, right? You got because that's what we found that helps drive support, is showing how bringing in other parts of the business, as well as how bringing in your quality system into an eQMS with you know, after COVID, and how a lot of people have gone virtual. Some people are starting to come back into the office, but it allows for ease of communication and working amongst teams and sharing information where you don't have to be or come together in a conference room. And so that's another way to show the advantage of working in the eQMS. Those are just a couple of samples.
Tamara, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say the last one that Josh just mentioned, I think I heard in a call yesterday. That's the biggest one I've seen, giving time back. So projects can a lot of times take not only time, but resources. And a lot of people have things that they're doing on a daily basis. So it's nice to have that visibility across the organization, everybody who needs to see it, where you're reducing maybe those additional meetings that you're booking. Everybody can come to the meeting prepared. They know exactly where things are, and the status is there. And I think there's a level of automation that's also introduced where before it is kind of searching, you might take time out of your day to create a checklist, where now all of that is really visible and you can see all of the components to show that evidence of completion.
Thank you. Great. So we have time for one more question, and this is for both of you. What does the process look like for digitizing a paper QMS and bringing it across to an eQMS? I know we kind of touched upon this, but that's just as more of a reminder.
Well, if you've already started, if you already have a paper-based eQMS, it pretty much comes to putting together that list or your metadata, so to speak, into a list of some kind, and then working with a tool, a data migration tool that's within Qualio to help you migrate those. If you're building from scratch, that's where we come in. We have a set of procedures, baseline procedures we can help you get started with in a format that has been audit tested and passed a number of audits that we can get you started with to help you implement something within Qualio that allow your business to get off and running at the right size, what we like to say, where it's not too cumbersome and meets the requirements to get you off and running.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say, I know we have limited time, but I would say the biggest thing I typically hear is just really getting together and identifying maybe what information you want to bring in. If you've already got it ready, that's wonderful. You've got it in place, and then just kind of easily migrating it in. And to Josh's point as well, they have a wonderful team backing that can support many of you on the call today to kind of get that information in if you don't have anything. So there's support on all ends, and it makes it a lot smoother for that migration process.
Awesome. Thank you. So I think those are all of the questions. So at this point, this is the conclusion of our webinar today. We do have 2 more handouts for you that we'll add into the chat right now, courtesy of Canon Quality Group. We have our compliance essentials for startup programs, and then we also have a white paper risk analysis. So those are the resources. In the next couple of days, you will be receiving an email from us and a copy of the slides, these resources as well, and a copy of this recording for the webinar. So you can pass it along to people who were not able to make it today. But overall, thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much, Josh and Tamara. This was a fantastic webinar, and we hope to see you all in the future. And please feel free to reach out to any of us going forward. So everyone can have a great day. Thank you all.
Take care.
Bye-bye.